The crowd froze. The shelter volunteers stopped talking. The happy background noise of barking dogs went completely silent. It started with a low, guttural growl, a sound that made the air feel instantly heavy, instantly dangerous. This was Sieg, the German shepherd everyone in the city of Havenwood knew as unadoptable, the aggressive, cage-pacing phantom. And on a damp, gray afternoon in late October, he was staring down a tiny, frail figure in a bright pink wheelchair. Lily Hawthorne, only 8 years old, paralyzed from a traumatic accident a year prior, was rolling quietly past his kennel. Sieg, who usually lunged at anyone who came within 10 feet, did something no one could have predicted. He didn't attack. He didn't growl. He let out a desperate, mournful sound, then did this. This is the story of Lily and Sieg, a bond born of desperation and a secret the dog held in his heart. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why sometimes the ones who love us most don't need words to save our lives. Lily Hawthorne lived a quiet life now, a life marked by the smooth, rhythmic whir of her motorized wheelchair and the hushed, almost tiptoeing silence that had settled over her family's home in the quiet, tree-lined suburb of Maple Creek. Before the accident, a terrible bicycle mishap that had severed her spinal cord and stolen the use of her legs, Lily's world had been defined by the chaotic, joyful sounds of a hyperactive 7-year-old. The thud of running feet, the high-pitched giggle of a child chasing fireflies, the smell of freshly cut grass sticking to scraped knees. Now her days were different. Her mother, Sarah Hawthorne, a high school art teacher with kind, exhausted eyes, structured every moment around Lily's physical therapy and medical appointments. Sarah's small worries weren't about bills or deadlines. They were about Lily's spirit. Lily had retreated, closing herself off like a beautiful, fragile flower pulling its petals inward. She was polite, compliant, and heartbreakingly silent. The house smelled perpetually of antiseptic wipes and cinnamon candles Sarah lit in a futile attempt to make it feel warmer. Their mission on this particular day, October 27th, was an attempt to coax that lost joy back. Lily had been reading a library book about therapy animals, service dogs that could perform miracles. Sarah had seen a tiny flicker of interest, a small, almost imperceptible lift of Lily's chin, and she seized the moment. They were visiting the Havenwood County Animal Shelter, hoping to find a small, gentle lapdog that could bring a little warmth back into their cold world. The Havenwood shelter, however, was filled mostly with happy, yapping terrier mixes and placid old labs. As they moved down the kennel corridor, Lily's expression remained politely neutral. They were about to turn toward the exit when they reached the last kennel in the back, the isolation unit reserved for difficult, high-risk cases. That's where Sieg was. Sieg was a 4-year-old former police canine washout. He was huge. Nearly 100 pounds of coiled muscle and mistrust. He spent all his time pacing a worn-out track in his small concrete kennel, the rhythmic tick-tick of his claws on the floor a constant soundtrack to the shelter's back room. His official file was stamped, aggressive, unadoptable. Lily, rolling slowly, stopped completely outside his kennel. She stared at him. He stopped pacing. The tick-tick ceased. The noise level in the entire back hall dropped instantly. But Sarah Hawthorne had no idea that on that late October afternoon, everything would change. That in just 60 desperate minutes, this massive, unadoptable German shepherd would do something so unexpected, so desperate, that it would leave everyone questioning everything they thought they knew about animal intuition. The specific scene was the back isolation corridor of the Havenwood shelter. Time of day, 3:42 p.m. Present were Sarah, Lily in her wheelchair, and Mark Olson, the shelter's assistant manager. Sieg was standing motionless, a statue carved of muscle and tension, at the very back of his kennel. His eyes were fixed on the small, pink-clad girl in the chair. We We probably shouldn't linger here, Mark murmured, moving subtly between them and the kennel. Sieg gets worked up easily. He's a liability. Sarah nodded, ready to roll Lily onward, but Lily didn't move. She reached out one small hand and she just pointed at Sieg. Her first unprompted action all day. "He's sad, Mom," Lily whispered, her voice rusty from disuse. But Sieg did something completely out of character. He didn't pace. He didn't growl. He let out a soft, single whimper. A sound of profound distress, and then pressed his huge head hard against the steel kennel bars, right at the height of Lily's shoulder. "Sieg has never done that," Mark breathed, dropping his cleaning towel. Sieg began to nose the kennel lock, a heavy-duty bolt secured with a carabiner. Not aggressively, but with frantic, deliberate nudges. Mark immediately jumped into action. "Whoa, boy! Back off, Sieg! Leave it!" Sieg didn't even blink. He just let out a choked, frantic little noise, a sort of whining bark, high-pitched and laced with panic. He was doing a frantic, deliberate action, pawing a pattern on the concrete floor with his massive front right paw, a repeated thud, thud, thud that seemed to be communicating something critical. Mark tried a failed attempt to calm Sieg with treats. Sieg ignored the sound completely. His entire body was vibrating. Now, before I tell you what happened in the next 60 seconds, you need to understand something about the nature of German Shepherds and their unpredictable fixation. Sieg's K9 washout report didn't cite biting. It cited uncontrollable hyper-focus on things humans couldn't see or hear. What if that distraction wasn't a flaw? What if it was a superior sensory ability? Because without knowing this, what happens next won't just surprise you. It'll completely rewrite everything you thought you knew about animal intuition. Sieg's behavior escalated sharply. His hackles were fully raised, a thin, tight line of sheer terror and urgency down his back. His whining bark became a continuous, breathless, high-pitched "ee" that hurt the ears. He began to bite at the carabiner holding the lock, hard, desperate bites that sent metallic echoes through the hall. "Lily, sweetie, we have to go now," Sarah whispered, reaching for the controls. Lily, for the first time in a year, spoke with conviction. "No, Mom. He's talking to me." And then, at exactly 4:02 p.m., Sieg did something that made everyone freeze. He finally broke the carabiner. It snapped with a sharp, echoing crack. The heavy bolt slid, the door swung inward an inch, and Sieg, instead of lunging out and running free or attacking, simply shoved his massive snout through the opening, nudged the wheelchair hard, and then completely blocked the door with his body, preventing the door from opening further. He wasn't trying to escape. He was trying to push the girl away from the cage, and then, immediately, he barricaded himself in. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we share incredible true stories about animal heroes 3 times a week, and I promise you, what happens next will absolutely shatter your heart. Chaos instantly erupted. Sieg, now partially blocking his own escape, was still whining that frantic, breathy noise. Mark, the assistant manager, ran up, ready to subdue the dog. "Sieg, back up! Back in! Now!" Sieg met Mark's presence with a sharp, low, warning growl. Mark immediately backed off. Okay, he's contained. But he's guarding that door, too. Dr. Anya Sharma, a veterinarian on site, rushed over. "He's in a state of extreme distress, Mark. Let's check for an injury," she said, trying to coax Sieg's head out. Sieg twisted his head away, ignoring the lead. He kept his massive front foot planted firmly outside the door, preventing Mark from safely securing the lock, while his head remained partially inside. He was creating a barricade. Sarah tried to soothe him, but Sieg renewed his intense, frantic focus on Lily. Sarah Hawthorne was faced with an impossible choice. Trust the massive, unpredictable dog who had moments ago snapped the lock, or listen to every logical voice saying this behavior was dangerous. She had exactly 3 minutes before animal control arrived. She pushed her internal fear down. "Wait, give me a minute." She rolled Lily's chair back to the spot Sieg had tried to push her toward. As she moved Lily away, Sieg's frantic whining immediately lessened. He relaxed his grip on the door, allowing Mark to secure the lock. Sieg, now fully secured, was not calm. He was more frantic. He was now pacing violently, the rhythmic tick-tick-tick returning. Lily, safe now, looked down at the concrete floor where she had been sitting just moments before. "He wanted me here, Mom, not there." Sieg suddenly changed his action. He stopped pacing. He began to lick the floor, the exact spot where Lily's wheelchair had been parked when he broke the lock. He licked the concrete frantically, then began to paw at the single faint seam in the concrete floor that separated his kennel from the main corridor. Dr. Sharma, seeing the licking, crouched down, sniffing the air right above the concrete seam. "I smell almost nothing." Sieg's desperation became agonizing. He stopped licking and started scratching the concrete seam with his teeth, an act that would damage his own enamel. He was trying to tear the floor apart. "He's hurting himself," Sarah cried out, horrified. And then it happened. The moment that would explain everything. The discovery was small, silent, and entirely overlooked by human senses. Dr. Sharma, frustrated by the dog's relentless focus on the floor, decided to check the drain cover nearby. That's when she saw it. A tiny, almost invisible, wispy white condensation coming from the seam in the concrete floor. First realization, something is wrong. She felt a distinct chill, colder than the ambient temperature. She straightened up, her face going pale, her hand shooting to her mouth. Second realization, it's serious. "Call 911!" she suddenly yelled. "The fire department, now! Tell them it's a suspected refrigerant gas leak. I think there's a crack in the cooler line beneath the foundation." Final realization, the animal knew and was trying to save them. Dr. Sharma grabbed her air quality sensor. She held it over the seam where Sieg had been frantically licking. The digital reading spiked instantly, turning a flashing, aggressive red. High concentration of HFC refrigerant gas, R410A. The gas was odorless, tasteless, and heavier than air. It was leaking from an aging, cracked cooling line embedded in the foundation. The gas rapidly displaces oxygen, leading to asphyxiation, particularly in low-lying, confined areas. Lily, in her wheelchair, was at the perfect height for inhalation, exactly where the odorless gas would settle first. Sieg hadn't been acting aggressively. He was trying to force Lily's chair away from the invisible, silent pool of deadly gas settling on the floor. His barricade action wasn't to keep people out of his cage, but to keep himself from fully leaving the safety of his slightly raised kennel bed, while using his body to shield the gap that was venting the most danger. The rhythmic pawing was an alert signal, imprinted in his basic canine training, for hidden threat below the surface. His unpredictable fixation was finally explained. He could smell the microscopic parts per trillion concentration of the gas before it became fatal. The full implications hit like a physical blow. If Sieg hadn't broken the lock and desperately tried to push Lily's wheelchair away, Lily would have quietly and quickly succumbed to asphyxiation. They almost stopped the animal from saving them, mistaking his heroic, desperate warning for a psychotic break. The back hall of the shelter went completely silent. And then Sarah started crying, a deep, racking sound of profound relief and terror. Soon there wasn't a dry eye in the room. They realized they'd been witnessing something extraordinary. Not just an animal acting strangely, but a hero. A protector. Firefighters arrived, confirming the leak and evacuating the building. Lily was checked by paramedics. Sarah approached Sieg's cage. He was quiet now, exhausted. She slid her fingers through the chain link. "You knew," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You knew the whole time. You saved my life, and you saved my daughter's life." Sieg, the aggressive, unadoptable dog, pushed his massive head into her hand and let out a soft, single, sighing sound of relief. But the story doesn't end there. Because what happened in the days and weeks that followed would prove that this bond, this connection, went even deeper than anyone could have imagined. 2 weeks later, after extensive counseling and testing, Sieg was officially adopted by the Hawthorne family. How did this change their lives? It changed everything. Lily's paralysis hadn't changed, but her spirit had exploded back into life. The silent little girl was gone. Sieg, the aggressive dog, was impossibly gentle with Lily. He became her shadow, his massive body constantly pressed against the side of her wheelchair. She named him Guardian. Dr. Elena Rostova, a veterinary behaviorist, explained the science. Dogs don't just smell gas, they smell the molecular change in the air. Sieg can detect these specific compounds at concentrations as low as 40 parts per trillion, a level far below what would trigger a basic commercial gas alarm. His unpredictable fixation was a misdiagnosis. He wasn't aggressive. He was suffering from anxiety due to a sensory overload of constant, low-level chemical alarms that no one else could perceive. Lily is now 14 years old, vibrant and cheerful. Guardian, Sieg, is now 10, his muzzle showing streaks of distinguished gray. He still patrols the house, his anxiety gone, replaced by a deep, restful loyalty. What Sarah Hawthorne wants people to know is this. We thought we were going to the shelter to save a small dog. We ended up bringing home a massive German Shepherd who saved us. And there's one more thing you should know. Something that happened 3 years later that proved this wasn't just luck. Guardian was trained to be steady and calm, but at a busy outdoor market, he suddenly became agitated. He kept forcing Lily's chair, gently but firmly, off the main path and into a quiet alcove. Seconds later, a runaway, out-of-control scaffolding cart barreled exactly through the spot where Lily's wheelchair had been parked. Guardian knew. He felt the vibration through the ground, the specific low-frequency tremor of massive, fast-moving weight. He used his sensitivity, once again, as a silent, immediate warning system. This story teaches us a profound lesson about animal intelligence. That what we perceive as irrational behavior in our pets may, in fact, be the language of their superior senses, trying desperately to communicate a truth we are incapable of perceiving. Sarah Hawthorne says that she thinks about that day every single day. About what would have happened if she had listened to every logical voice in the room instead of trusting the desperate, non-verbal plea of the German Shepherd. The bond between Lily and Guardian is a testament to trust, to a mother's last-second decision to believe in the impossible, and a dog's unbreakable commitment to his found family. So the next time your dog barks at something you can't see, or refuses to go somewhere, or acts in a way that seems irrational, remember Lily and Guardian. Remember that sometimes the most important messages come without words, and the most powerful love doesn't need a voice. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It helps us share these incredible stories with more people. Tell us in the comments, has an animal ever sensed something you couldn't? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. Thank you for watching, and remember, trust the ones who love you, even when they can't explain why.